Friends, I welcome you to my channel. Before listening to this story, I will ask you to like and subscribe. It is not difficult for you, but it is pleasant for me. And we're starting. Janet has been a wonderful wife since we got married 5 years ago. Our life has been amazing, and our marriage has been strong. And until that moment, she had never given me any reason to be jealous or suspect her of infidelity. That's why I was stunned by her request to meet with the vice president of her company. Since she started working at Global Connections 3 years ago, she has worked her way up to marketing manager at an international entertainment firm. As you can imagine, she meets a wide variety of people and attends many events, conferences, consulting, and marketing meetings. Some of their clients are very well known, such as the New York Knicks, Chicago Bears, and New England Patriots. Her energetic and cheerful personality combined with her athletic physique, firm breasts, blonde hair, blue eyes, and intelligence made her an ideal candidate for this company. She told me about her plans, successes, and daily activities, and I was happy to listen and proud of her successes. She dreams of becoming a vice president of marketing and is working hard to achieve this goal. Global Connections is a British organization with offices around the world, and its manager Ian Woolsey is vice president of marketing. In his early 50s, he achieved success on his own, was married 3 times, and has 9 children, including 3 from his current wife. I couldn't help but think it was a good thing he was getting a big salary to keep his connections and divorces going when she told me about her boss. One evening, Janet started talking about Ian, telling me about her day, but only in a business setting, nothing personal. She explained that he was coming to the United States for 2 months, and this would give her the opportunity to show him how valuable she was to the company and let him know that she was interested in promotion in the organization. This is my girl, single-minded and focused on her future. We were just talking about children, and I asked her if a promotion would affect the length of time our family would grow. She said she wanted to feel her position in the company while Ian was here, and then she would let me know if we should have children or postpone our plans for a year. I was satisfied with any option, since we were still in our 20s and we were in no hurry to have children, but we wanted 2, a boy and a girl. We spent many evenings and hours choosing the names and universities they would go to when they grew up. We were in love with each other and were looking forward to raising our future children. A week after Ian arrived, I went into Janet's office to surprise her and invite her to lunch. When I went into her office, I saw that Ian and my wife were standing too close, and she was giggling and flirting. When she heard me say hello, she quickly stopped and walked away from him. Janet introduced me to Ian, and I swear that's when I saw the smirk on his face. Ian, this is my husband, Brian. Brian, this is Ian, the executive vice president from our corporate office. Remember, I told you that he didn't come for long. Then I saw it again. He smirked smugly as he spoke. Well, hello. So, you're our little hubby. Nice to meet you, but you'll have to excuse me. I'm late for a meeting, and quickly left the office, avoiding small talk. I found his greeting incredibly rude, especially for a man in his position. Janet, what the hell was that? And why were you hanging on to him and giggling? I didn't feel like laughing, and I had the urge to wipe that stupid grin off his face, but he was gone before I could do anything. She knew that I was upset with the way we had just met and tried to calm me down. Calm down, honey, it's just Ian, and it was a little harmless flirtation. Besides, he's old enough to be my father. Look, all the girls are crazy about him. He considers himself a ladies' man with his charming British accent and likes to flirt, and we all know he's just a cocky jerk, but he's the boss. Anyway, he's a family man, and you have nothing to worry about. It's just a light flirtation with girls. He calls it entertainment. Well, I don't like it. And he has the nerve to call me little hubby. And why the hell are you flirting with him in return? Oh, Brian, stop being jealous. Ian is the 3rd oldest in the whole company, and I need to be polite to him. As I said, he considers himself a ladies' man, and that's the way British men are. Well, I don't like it. Calm down. He will leave in 2 months. There was a tense atmosphere at home for several days after that, and Janet tried not to mention his name and not upset me any more than I already was. The moment of truth for Brian. Then, on Wednesday evening, a week after meeting Ian at the office, Janet struck up a casual conversation over dinner. Honey, is it okay if I have dinner with Ian? You know, my boss from work. I tensed up a bit, as it took me a while to understand her question, and answered the question with a question. You mean like a business meeting? Well, no. Rather, it will be a one-time date before he returns to London. I immediately felt my stomach tighten and my heart beat faster. I sat in silence for a long time before answering. I understand. Is this the same Ian who flirted with you and laughed at me in your office? A so-called family man, married. Does he have a total of 9 children from 3 different wives? Well, yes. But he turned out to be a very nice person. He won't be here for long, and I probably won't see him again when he gets back to London, so I thought one date would be enough. As I said, he is married and has children. There would be nothing romantic about it, just a bit of fun. One night is all I ask. It might even help my career. I mean, actually, you're out of town all the time on business, and one night away from home shouldn't be such a big deal. Okay, so it's not just dinner, it's a date, and you want to spend the whole night with him. Let me be clear, Janet. There's no way I'm going to let you go on a date with another man while we're married. Do you understand? In fact, just realizing that you want to be with another man makes me rethink our marriage. When she saw my reaction, she panicked. Oh, my God, no. You've got it all wrong. I love you, and you are my husband. Ian is just a one-time thing, and I'll be back the next day. Nothing will change between us, and he will disappear from our lives forever. Oh my God, it's just for one night. I looked at her with fury in my eyes and just said, fuck you. I will file for divorce in the next few days. Then I got up, went to my closet, packed a bag of clothes, and went out. She kept begging me to come back when I was leaving my once happy home. In less than 30 minutes, my once happy marriage turned into a nuclear disaster. Immediately, the calls from my loving wife began, followed by continuous messages in which she expressed her love and insisted that I would never have anyone else. In the next message, she tried to convince me that I was her loving husband, that it was all a misunderstanding, and that I needed to go home. I was out for 2 nights, ignored her calls, and took time off from work, asking them to tell her that I was out of town on a business trip. Janet, ever since Ian came to my office, all the women in my workplace have been in awe of this strong, handsome man who attracted the attention of women. He was tall, well-built, and spoke with an amazing accent that was both seductive and hypnotizing. From the moment we met, it became clear to everyone that he had his eye on me. Compliments, private meetings, dinners together, and all the extra time he devoted to me made other women envious. Each of them would jump at the chance to be with Ian, married or not. Married women were even more active, encouraging me to go for it. Janet, he's asked you out a few times. All the girls in the office would instantly switch places with you. He's so handsome, and his accent makes us all salivate when he talks to us. Accept his offer and make love to this powerful man. You may never get another chance. Brian doesn't need to know, and he's going back to London, so no potential problems in the future. The girls from the office harassed me every day, until one day they finally convinced me to go for it. Deep down, I knew that I would never be able to act behind my husband's back, so I came up with the idea of asking Brian to let me go on one date. Just once, and then everything will go back to normal. The girls assured me that Brian would understand and give me this one night. At least that's what most of them told me. That evening, when I told him about it, I was shocked by his anger. It shouldn't have happened like this, and now he's gone. I can't believe he just left like that. I never thought he'd be so upset. In desperation, I called Gail, one of the girls at work. Gail and I started working in the same department at the company on the same day, 3 years ago, and have been inseparable ever since. Sobbing into the phone, I said, "Hi, Gail, this is Janet. He's gone. He left me." "Janet, what are you talking about?" "I told Brian I wanted to go out to dinner with Ian, and he just walked away from me. He just got up from the table, gathered his things, and ran out of the house. He even mentioned the divorce, and now I'm afraid I've lost him." "Nonsense. He's just angry. You've hurt his fragile male ego, but he'll be back. You haven't done anything yet, and he knows it. He may get angry and sulky for a few days, but he'll forgive you. We'll come up with another plan to set you up with Ian. Trust me. I don't want that. I only need my husband." "Janet, relax. Have a glass of wine. Get some rest. I'll see you at work tomorrow." The planning of her betrayal continues. Brian returned home 2 days later and moved into the second bedroom. Gail was right. Brian was furious, much more so than anyone could have guessed. Although Brian loved Janet, he was ready to divorce her if she mentioned Ian's name again. At least marriage counseling seemed inevitable. Over the next week, Janet tried her best to earn Brian's forgiveness. After a week of meetings with his attractive wife and no love contacts, Brian decided to suppress his anger. They had a stormy love affair, and Brian eventually forgave Janet, but sternly warned her, "I'm not coming back here next time." Janet dodged a bullet and promised Brian that she would never make such a mistake again. She shared the whole story with the girls at work, admitting that she almost lost her husband because of her stupid idea. However, now the girls did not lose their heads and came up with a reliable plan to bring Ian and Janet together. It became a collective project, and the marketing team was determined to achieve their goal of arranging a meeting between Ian and Janet before he returned to London. One of the women, Marcia, came up with an idea that the team liked and took their plan to a new level. "Girls, in 2 weeks we are planning a gala dinner in honor of the end of the year at the Hyatt Hotel. I know for sure that they plan to have a nice dinner for the whole team with the participation of the band and dancing. This year they want spouses to attend it, and when I heard about it, I had a brainstorm. You know, my husband Clark is a sales representative of a pharmaceutical company specializing in anesthesiology. His company has developed a new formula for midazolam. For those of you who don't know what it is, I'll explain. Midazolam is a drug given to patients to calm them down before surgery. It knocks them out in a matter of seconds and leads to short-term amnesia. From that moment on, they don't remember anything until they wake up. Currently, midazolam is administered intravenously, but the new drug, S2-Mid, is available in tablet or liquid form. Well, my husband's new popular product is S2-Mid, and he sells it in large quantities. It works like magic and is better than the original formula. Well, how will this help us? Gail asked as Janet listened with a puzzled expression on her face. Gail, I'm glad you asked. Since these are List 2 drugs, Clark keeps his samples under lock and key in his car. He makes sure that they are safe and inaccessible. However, sometimes he takes my little Mustang Cobra for a ride on it. When he leaves, I can easily take his key and grab a few pills or an ounce of liquid, and no one will ever know. Okay, Marcia, this is interesting, but what's your plan? Girls, you're going to love this. At the party, when everyone is gathered, I'll pour myself a drink and pass it to Brian. I know from previous meetings with him that he can't resist the Crown Royal, so I casually hold 2 glasses in my hand and hand one to Brian when I see that he needs a drink. The effect may take from 5 to 20 minutes, depending on how much he drinks, but he will start to feel sleepy, he will feel dizzy, and eventually he will faint on one of the chairs to which we will lead him. Then we will tell everyone that Brian is not feeling well, and then we will take him to your hotel room and put him to bed. He will be unconscious for at least 4 hours, and most likely won't wake up until morning." Turning to Janet, Marcia continued, "When we take him to his room, that will be the signal for you to go with Ian. Go up to his room and use him to the point of insanity for a few hours. We'll cover for you here and tell everyone that you went upstairs to be with Brian. Girls, I can't do this to Brian. Do you want me to drug my husband with illegal substances in order to make love to Ian? Do you realize how crazy that sounds? Brian will kill me if he finds out we're even considering this. Of course, I know that it would be exciting and would increase my chances of promotion, but if Brian caught me, he would divorce me. Come on, it's safe, and he'll never know what happened. Ian will be in your debt, and your promotion will be secured. The last thing Brian will remember is you asking him if he's okay and that you love him. And when he wakes up in your arms, you'll have wonderful memories of the night you spent with Ian. And you better share all this with all of us, sister." "I don't know. This is crazy. Look, let me think about it. Things have improved at home, and Brian is no longer angry. I'll tell him about the party and see how he reacts." Janet decides her fate. Later, in bed, Janet said, "Brain, we're having our annual dinner in 2 weeks, and we're inviting the couple. You need to clean and iron your tuxedo, as it's going to be a formal dinner. We haven't gone to a dance in a long time, and it's going to be fun. Janet, as much as I hate these events, I'm going to do this because I know it's important to you." At that moment, I decided to put my plan into action and wrote to Marcia, "I agree. Can you get the medicine?" A minute later, a reply message arrived. Leave it to me. No problem. Janet loved making love with Brian, and she was thrilled that one day she would do it with Ian. The thrill of being able to do it only once and never again kept her on edge and constantly aroused. She wasn't sure if it was because of the temptation to do something indecent or because of the idea of spending the night with her boss, but anyway, she stuck to this plan. She promised herself that it would be a one-time thing and that Brian would never find out. Nothing terrible, nothing reprehensible, right? Over the next week, Brian noticed that Janet became much more active on her cell phone, texting with her friends more often. He knew that the party was coming, and he had an unpleasant feeling that something was wrong. A few nights later, when Janet was fast asleep, Brian took out her phone, entered the password, the date of their anniversary, and opened her text messages. Brian continued to play the role of a loving husband, tracking her messages and learning the latest news about their plans right up to the day of the party. During this time, he called his Uncle Bob, his godfather, and a retired policeman. Brian told him what was going on, and together they worked out their plan. If they chose the right time and showed some acting skills, they could outplay the entire team of jackalls. The secret group they put together included Ellie Johnson, Uncle Bob's former police partner. Ellie joined Brian's two army buddies, Craig Marks and Jimmy Jones, to help with their plan. Ellie had to make sure that Brian didn't drink alcohol at the party. Uncle Bob, Craig, and Jimmy were doing the hard work that was coming later in the evening. Brian remembers this work event. As I expected, Janet was wearing a very revealing low-cut dress, black stockings with seams, and very high heels. Her makeup and hairstyle were impeccable, and it hurt me to realize that the reason she dressed like that wasn't because of me. Realizing that it was another man was an offensive act that I would never forgive. "You look very beautiful today, dear. Is this all for me?" "Of course, dear. I want you to show off your wife and be proud of her." I almost choked when I heard how easily she lied to me. This fool was going to drug me with illegal substances and use another man right under my nose. She didn't care that I would be humiliated in front of all her colleagues, each of whom knew exactly what she was up to. No, all she cared about was being with this guy, and I still couldn't understand why she risked everything for a one-night stand. As my dear old dad once told me, women just can't understand normal thinking. We ended up at a party, and we were quickly surrounded by Janet's friends. They dragged her into the circle where Ian was holding the line. I followed them, scanning the room for Ellie, Bob's former police partner, who was nearby. We planned for Ellie to help mix drinks to save me from getting high on illegal substances. I noticed her off to the side as I approached the circle surrounding Ian. Unfortunately, I couldn't stand next to Janet, because now she was next to Ian, who was hugging her waist, laughing and telling jokes. My instinct was to grab her and take her away from him, but that would ruin our plans. So I just watched her actions, and it hurt like hell. I felt my stomach twist and bile rise in my throat as my anger intensified. She was so in love with Ian and gave him all her attention. I didn't exist in her world at that moment. I was standing next to some other guy and watching Ian perform in front of a crowd of onlookers. That's when Ian saw me and decided to have some fun at my expense. "Well, look who's here," the accountant. "Welcome, little man," he said with a malicious grin. That's when Janet saw my face and suddenly realized that she was being held tightly by Ian, not her husband, as he continued. "You know, I have some jokes that you'll like, Brian. What do accountants use for birth control?" "Their personality." Everyone looked at me and laughed, including Janet, which, I admit, hurt my ego. He continued to humiliate me in front of all the staff, and my wife did nothing to stop him. It hurt like hell, but I had to keep my cool and let our plan come to fruition. The fool was having fun now. "Did you like it, Brian? You're a boring accountant by nature, you know?" Then he made a dozen more jokes about accountants, and each time everyone, including my wife, just looked at me and laughed. "Your wife has wonderful W2 sneakers." My wife thought it was funny. "Oh, baby, let me hold you." The girls who were there just giggled. Technically, love with an accountant is a charity gift. Janet laughed even louder when my humiliation became unbearable. In Brian's office, IRS means I'm very handsome. My anger was growing. "If I help you use Uncle Sam, can I be next?" "I've had enough. That's all. I've had enough humiliation for a lifetime." I turned and walked away, and he continued to make jokes in my direction. Laughing, Ian shouted as I was leaving, "Brian, come back, baby." I was just joking. Rage seized me as I was leaving. Okay, Ian was a few centimeters taller than me, but keep in mind that I'm not a small person with a height of 185 centimeters and a weight of 90 kilograms. I could break this Englishman in half in 2 seconds if I wanted to. Of course, Janet knew about it, but at that moment I wasn't sure. The only thing I was sure of was that these idiots had to suffer and pay the price for the disrespect they intentionally showed me. What the hell was Janet thinking? Was she under his spell? Did she just think that I would accept her disrespect? As I was leaving, I suddenly felt an arm wrapped around my waist, and to my surprise, it was Janet. "Honey," he was joking. "Come with me." I gave her an angry look and said, "Are you completely crazy? You're standing there, he's got his arm around your waist, and you're laughing at me along with everyone else, while he's openly humiliating your husband, and you want me to go back to him? What kind of loving wife is capable of such a thing? I've never been so humiliated in my life. Damn it, I make more money as an accountant than any of these assholes, and you just agreed with him like I was a buffoon. Just go away, Janet. Get back to that loud-mouthed asshole. You two are worth each other. Brian, I'm so sorry. Please don't get mad. Let's sit and talk at our table for a few minutes." We finally got to our table and I saw Ellie, who was a few meters away from us, watching what was happening. Janet was still paying attention only to me and trying to calm me down, and after the second glass I calmed down a little. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed Ian coming up to our table. A silly grin appeared on his face, and he reached out to shake my hand. "No hard feelings, old man?" "Fuck off, asshole," I said, surprising everyone at the table. Shocked by my display of anger, Janet said, "Brian, this is my boss. Please don't talk to him like that." That's when this giant ferret got the nerve to ask my wife to dance. "Janet, it's okay. I hurt the kid's feelings. Do you want to dance?" She gave me an angry look after I sent her boss away, took his hand, and led him to the dance floor. After 3 dances, my glass was empty, and then Gail and Marcia came to my table and sat next to me. I noticed 2 glasses in Marcia's hand and realized that it was time for the performance. Ellie saw everything and started acting while the girls were trying to calm me down. "Brian, Ian has a British sense of humor. Don't take it so personally. Janet loves you and is just trying to impress her boss. Here, I brought your favorite drink, Crown Royal with ice." I tried my best and saw how the girls panicked when I said, "I don't know. I've already had too much to drink. Maybe I should just leave Janet here and go home." They both screamed at me to stay when I got up to leave. I turned away from the table just in time with a glass in my hand as Ellie passed by, and unnoticed by the girls, I exchanged drinks. Then I sat down again and started drinking a watered-down glass of Crown Royal that Ellie had made. Ellie kept the glass as evidence in case she needed it later. "Maybe you're both right. I'm just going to be a boring accountant, let her flirt with her boss, sit here and show everyone that I'm just a dumb jerk," I said, draining the entire glass. Marcia's expression was priceless. She never expected me to drink the whole cocktail, let alone drink it in one gulp. When I finished, the girls said they had to go back to their husbands. Now it was time for the performance, and I was sitting alone at the table, while Ian and Janet continued to dance. That evening, my acting skills were impressive when I sank into a chair and started pretending to doze off. I also continued to watch my wife and her boss find common ground, and was amazed at how openly she flirted. Sometime later, I put my head on the table and pretended to be asleep. I heard the girls and Janet coming up, trying to wake me up. Janet came close to my ear and said, "Honey, are you okay? Brian, wake up, baby." I opened my eyes and saw that my beautiful cheating wife was betraying me and saying she loved me. I closed my eyes and realized what was going to happen next. That's when Gail and Marcia picked me up and escorted me from the ballroom to my hotel room. Meanwhile, Ian and Janet slipped out the side door while everyone was watching the scene I was acting out. When we got to my hotel room, I heard my phone beep, signifying the receipt of a text message, and realized that our plan was in action. Damn it, Janet never said he was that big. I don't think Ian is in the same class as Brian. Damn, if he leaves Janet, I want to try to do it. I would love to try it. What the hell was Janet thinking about cheating on this guy? But I think we have something to do with it. Shut up, Gail, and let's get out of here. When the door closed, I got up, laughed at their comments, got dressed, and opened my phone. The text message read, Room 1722 at 10:45 a.m. I had 15 minutes to get to the room and meet Bob, Jimmy, and Craig. I went to the toilet, washed my face, took out my brass knuckles, and headed for the door. At 10:45, the four of us found ourselves in front of room 1722, just 30 minutes after the cheating couple entered the room. Uncle Bob's task was to get us into a room and then disappear. We didn't want him to be involved in what was going to happen next. Bob knocked loudly on the doorknob. Knock, knock. Ian's voice came from the other side of the door. This is Sergeant Connor from the NYPD. Please open the door. We have an emergency situation. Uncle Bob held his old badge up to the peephole, and then we heard the door open about 15 centimeters. Uncle Bob turned and walked away, having no idea what was going to happen next, and that's how we wanted it to happen. My army buddies, Jimmy and Craig, burst into the room, grabbed a naked Ian by the arms and pinned him against the wall. I walked in with my cell phone, videotaping the room, my naked wife, Janet, on the bed, and my nemesis Ian against the wall. The look of shock on Janet's face when she saw that I was awake and standing in front of her was an expression of horror. I was the last person on earth she expected to see before morning. Then I went over to Ian. I smiled when I saw the fear in his eyes, which was clearly reflected in my brass knuckles as my friends held him in place. What's wrong, Ian? No snarky comments or one of your silly grins. There was no response from the big man, only a plea for forgiveness. After the first, sorry, came out of his mouth, I beat him unconscious. I had no intention of causing permanent damage until my last blow shattered his big nose. Blood sprayed out in all directions as he collapsed to the floor in a semi-conscious state, crying like a 5-year-old girl. Turning to Janet, I said, I'm probably going to jail for this, but I don't give a shit right now. I'm sure you'll testify in defense of your lover, because he's all you have right now, you fool. Yes, Janet, I knew about your plans to drug me, lie to me, cheat on me, and then use this fool. When tears began to flow down her face, I continued, First of all, you won't be home until noon tomorrow. You won't call or text me. Tomorrow morning you will receive the divorce papers here at the hotel. The courier is ordered to wait until you sign them, and he will notarize your signature. I'm not being honest about this divorce. You will get a house with a capital of about $80,000, but I will keep all our savings and retirement money. I've already withdrawn all the money from our accounts and canceled your credit cards, so don't bother checking the balance. The terms of the divorce state that you will agree not to receive any support from me, and our paths will separate. And God willing, I'll never see your treacherous, cheating ass again. Your car is paid for, so you can keep it, but all the bills, insurance, gas, electricity, and mortgage payments are on your account. Good luck with that. As for this asshole, I will send these videos of you naked with him to his wife, and I believe that for your lover this will be marriage number 4. You need to catch up on something, you fool, but I'm sure you'll sleep with enough guys to make it happen soon enough. Oh, and one last note. If you sign the divorce papers, which will be submitted tomorrow morning, we can safely part ways, and no one will know about your lewd deeds. If you don't sign, I'll send the video to your mom and dad and explain why I'm leaving you. I will also make sure that you both get fired from your jobs and ruin your reputation in this business. We both know how important your career is to you. I don't want to do this, so just sign the papers by 9 a.m. tomorrow, or your life as you know it will end. My things will disappear from the house, and all that I have left, you can throw away or donate to charity. Janet, not hiding her sobs, tried to speak. Baby, please talk to me. Don't do this. You know, I just wanted to be with him for once. I don't love him, and I don't want to see him. It was just supposed to give me pleasure and help me get a promotion. He was going to return to London next week, and I would never see him again. Why couldn't you understand? I didn't want to humiliate myself anymore and just ignored her ridiculous words. I told Craig and Jimmy to go home. You guys can leave now. You've never been here. I'll take the blame if that happens. After they left, I looked at my wife and said softly, Janet, I loved you, but what you did is unforgivable. You know how I felt when you brought it up the first time, but you decided to go behind my back and do it anyway. Please, Brian, you can't divorce me. You know I love you, and I don't want anyone else. Honey, give me a chance to prove it to you. It doesn't mean anything to me. It should have happened only once. He's nothing compared to you, and now I realize how stupid I was. Please, baby, don't do this. Janet, it would be funny if it wasn't so ridiculous. After an awkward silence, Brian continued, Janet, the time for talking is over. When you conspired with your colleagues to drug me and cuckold me, you ruined our marriage and everything we worked for. Do you remember our future children, whom we have been planning all this time? Emily and Jason? Well, they'll never be born because of you. Our life together is now history and nothing but sad memories. Brian left the room as she collapsed onto the bed. Everything she had planned was burned to the ground. The girl's insidious plan did not work, and her one-time selfish act turned into unpleasant consequences, as a result of which she was left to live without the man she loved. And she really loved Brian. Sobbing into her pillow, she couldn't understand why she let this happen. She started screaming to no one in particular, delirious and broken. When Ian, who was lying on the floor, came to his senses, Janet screamed, But Brian, the girls said that you will forgive me because you love me, and it will only be once. Love, just fucking love with Ian. Can't you understand and forgive me? I'll make it up to you, and I'll never do that again. Please don't leave me. Please, I love you. But Brian was already gone. The damage was done, and it was time for her to think about a future without her husband, the man she claimed she loved. The epilogue. Gail, Marcia, Ian, and Janet were arrested and charged with multiple felony counts, including conspiracy, kidnapping, and possession of prohibited substances. Gail was sentenced to 2 years in prison for conspiracy, Marcia was given 10 years for conspiracy, possession, and assault, and Ian received 2 years for conspiracy. The kidnapping charges were dropped. Janet also received 2 years for conspiracy. Naturally, Janet, Marcia, and Gail lost their jobs, and a criminal offense ruined their careers. After their release from prison, the girls had to get a job that was once considered humiliating and beneath their dignity. Marcia's husband, Clark, lost his job due to the scandal and was unable to find a similar position. His career was hindered by his wife's desire to realize her fantasies with Janet's help. He divorced Marcia while she was serving her sentence. Gail's husband also divorced her, and she lost the love of her 2 children, who never visited her. During this fiasco, Ian charged Brian with battery and a serious broken nose. However, after the jury heard the whole case, Brian was found not guilty. Ian's wife divorced him, and he lost his job due to a criminal offense and sexual harassment in the workplace. Janet tried to recover damages from Ian for sexual harassment in a civil court, but by the time she got out of prison, Ian was divorced and left penniless. After his release from prison, he did not receive severance pay or recommendations from his company. The last anyone heard of Ian was that he was left penniless, with no job prospects and on probation for the next 5 years. The luxurious lifestyle and freedom he once enjoyed were taken away from him overnight, all because of his arrogance and inflated ego. Now this big man has been humiliated and reduced in size. Brian moved on and, true to his word, never saw Janet again. 5 years later, he remarried and lived with Gloria, a woman even more beautiful than Janet. Gloria was smart and loyal, promising never to cheat on Brian. However, once burned, he became attentive twice. Brian insisted on signing a prenuptial agreement before they got married, despite her promises to remain faithful. After what he'd been through, it was hard for Brian to trust any woman. Now, at the age of 31, Brian was happily married and the couple were expecting their second child. Janet has never been able to recover from the loss of Brian, the man she loved and never wanted to lose. Her depression did not go away, and one night, when she was alone as usual, Janet lay in bed and looked at Brian's Facebook page, as she did every night after the divorce. Janet sobbed and burst into tears when she saw the last photo of Brian's son, Jason, and Emily, Brian's newborn daughter. She realized that Brian had found the family she had given up on and all because of one selfish betrayal. She never remarried and did not forgive herself for her stupidity and selfish act. I read this quote below. Do you think this is true? They're not sorry for what they did, but for what you found out. End.